Welcome back to Walking Stories, the California Walks podcast, where we get to learn from the lived and learned experiences of the community and talk about urban planning, design, and how to make our streets safer. I'm Cal Walks Co-Executive Director Kevin Shin.
Hi everyone, I'm Co-Executive Director Miha. Last month, we introduced the details of AB 413, the daylighting bill that is intended to make streets safer by increasing visibility for everyone. We were joined by Bike SD Executive Director Anar Salayev, I hope I said that right, who shared his story about tactical urbanism and doing what he's doing for his community, what the city has been hesitant to do. Make sure that you listen and share the story with legislators in your community if they aren't implementing the daylighting bill.
This month, we have a new guest and a new story. Joining us is high school student Chloe Dahl, who is one of the student leaders of Walk Bike Roll California and an advocate for walking and biking in her communities of Sunnyvale and Cupertino. Welcome to the podcast, Chloe.
Hi, it's great to be here.
So, Chloe, tell us what got you interested in advocating for walking and biking in your community.
So my freshman year, I actually heard about Safe Routes to School, and I saw that there was like a little application window left, and I was kind of hesitant to join at first because I didn't really know a lot about the program. But I applied anyways, and eventually I got in, and that's kind of what led me to, um, like I guess down my road of bike advocacy.
That's fantastic. We love hearing stories about young folks like you who are excited to help do amazing things and to make your community safer. In fact, that's why we've asked you here today to join us in talking about safe routes to school. We know that many youth are going to be heading back to school by the end of August, and we thought this would be the perfect opportunity to share some stories related to getting to and from school safely.
So, Chloe, I'm really excited to hear your story about getting to school. I personally walked to school every year of school from kindergarten up, and I know that a lot of our listeners will also relate to um, your story about getting to school. So, go ahead whenever you're ready and share it with us.
Yeah, so I started my freshman year of high school biking every day.
Mm,
I bike with my friends, and I honestly think that is probably the best way to get to school. Like, it's kind of lonely to bike by yourself
mm,
sometimes, and sometimes it feels like why am I even doing this? But biking with your friends in the morning is really it really awakens you,
mm.
especially in addition to biking itself, which is can be kind of an exercise in the morning, but usually I meet up with my friends and we bike to school together.
And about how far would you say that you bike?
I would say it's around 15 minutes, so it's not
Okay.
very far.
Hmm. Yeah. Um, Now, did you start biking and your friends kind of were like, "Hey, I have a bike. I think I'll join you," or like, how
Yeah,
did
I
you get a
think
group of people together?
we started biking separately, and then sometimes I'd notice them because we take the same route and eventually merge on like the same road.
Mhm.
So I'd be like, "Oh, hey, like we leave at the same time. Why don't we just meet up in the morning and bike together?"
Nice. That's great. Yeah. For a lot of reasons, you're more visible, you have friends with you.
Yeah.
And so when you are biking to school in your community, do you find it safe? Like, what are some of the things that you've experienced that make you feel safe about biking in the community? And then what are some of the challenges that you encounter on a regular basis?
So as we mentioned before, I think biking with another person it makes it like 10 times safer.
Mhm.
The I guess there are some route specific issues that I might have. Um, Especially, well, just a general one, especially when it's in the fall, when leaves are coming down, it is
Mm.
really dangerous. I've caught myself slipping a couple times, and it is like it stops your heart. Like it is really dangerous. Um, Besides, I guess that's kind of like a general issue that, it's kind of hard to fix that. But we have I meet with my friends on top of like a hill, I guess, and there's a light coming out of the neighborhood that is like a suggestion. It is a
Mhm.
suggestion. It's like you press the light and it's like cars may not stop. And that gets us every day. Like we have to decide whether we want to stay in like the car lane and turn left because it's like a left turning, except there are cars coming straight and turning from the
Mhm.
other side, or we go across to the sidewalk and press the light and then just kind of wait for 5 minutes until someone feels like stopping.
Yeah.
So this is a stoplight, right? This is not a, it's not like one of the rapid flashing beacons or one of the hawk signals. This is just like a standard everyday stoplight.
I think, I don't know if it's a stoplight. It, let's see if I remember correctly, there is like a button to press it, but then the lights will light up on like the ground. I don't think there's
Okay.
actually a light in the
Ah,
air. And then
Hmm.
there's a voice that'll say, like, caution lights are on, but cars may not stop. So
well,
just
that's
like,
not very
Yes.
helpful.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Every day we bike past that and we're like, well, that's great. Okay, cool.
It sounds like either the cars are not used to having some other road user interrupt their path, or they might not actually know how that device works, or they
I
might just be
think
ignoring it.
I think it was installed as like an afterthought.
Hmm.
I think because it's a community that leads, like, there would be mostly students living there and leading directly down the road to my high
Hmm.
school. So they might have realized afterwards that, hey, there's a lot of students coming from here
Hmm.
and there's like no light whatsoever to stop people and they just kind of have to wait there.
Yeah. So it sounds like you and your friends, just because now you're pretty much an expert at that at that
Yeah.
crossing at that location, you're just taking the default of they're not going to stop for us. We're
Most of the
gonna
times in the morning, it's like really rushy, and we're like, we're not going to take our chances. So we go across the sidewalk. But sometimes, like when there's no cars coming either way, we'll take the left-hand turning lane.
hmm Yeah. I think
It's not it's not ideal though that students should have to play Frogger
Yeah, it's not.
with their lives just to
Yeah,
get to and from school, right? Like that just seems like a missed opportunity if nothing else.
I would
yeah.
agree.
In the first podcast, I had a school related story. And one of the things that it reminds me of your story is that I remember as a kid just having a lot of anxiety about what will the drivers do. Like what they will do was a mystery to me. You hadn't taken driver's ed yet, so I didn't know the rules
Mm.
of the road. I mean, generally, even by fifth grade, the cars belong in the street, you belong on the sidewalk. But at pinch points, turns, weird crossings, it was always like, what will they do? Will they see me? Will they not? Um, and I think depending on the age, you either know, you guys are in high school, to just wait and not trust them.
Yeah,
Or if you're a younger kid, yeah, kids younger than a certain age don't have really good like impulse control. They'll book it. That's what my son
yeah,
would do if he didn't know what to do. He would just run. And so we're just seeing how like the roadway is not designed for different ages to really be safe and for everyone to understand where do I belong? What are the natural things that I should be doing to keep myself safe? Um, have you all ever shared anything with your city about the that intersection, that turn?
No, actually, but now that I say it out loud, I probably should.
Of,
It sounds like a good comment to start making on a consistent basis at city council meetings if
Yeah, it
if they
does.
haven't done anything about it. Maybe they just haven't heard enough about it.
I honestly, I've never seen anything else like that before. It is so weird. Like you have to go see it.
yeah, we can imagine because sometimes unique things get placed in cities across California, and um, that's something Kevin and I can talk about later. But one of the things about road safety is that everyone has to know what the natural reaction to the roadway should be. And if you're questioning what you should be doing, then the drivers are not slowing down all the time. It already is sending the message that like this design is not clear for everyone.
Yeah.
Right.
It's
And if we're
not,
talking
you
about,
know.
if we're talking about safe routes to school,
Mhm.
there really should be like it's not just the students responsibility, and it's not just the parents' responsibilities, but really cities have responsibilities to make sure that when it comes to schools in particular, that the routes getting to and from the school from different communities, and especially now in a day and age where not everybody necessarily attends the school that's immediately within their own community. So sometimes folks have to go a little bit further, or sometimes they have special reasons for attending schools maybe on the other side of town. Like making sure that there are ways for those students to actually get to that school safely, and taking extra precautions, right? I get that everybody hates congestion, everybody hates that, hates being slowed down. But if we're really talking about the lives of students, isn't that a little bit of inconvenience? Isn't that worth that little bit of inconvenience to make sure that your kids and their friends, not just your own kids, but their friends as well, all get to school safely, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I totally
Uh,
agree with that.
Interesting because you and your friends made this choice, right? For whatever reason, you made the choice to bike to school, but maybe it's easier, maybe you can't get a ride with your parents. But the benefits to the community are like many that you guys are choosing to go. Like first, the safety factor of going together, the exercise factor, the fact that you're keeping multiple cars off the road, so you're helping with air pollution in your community. You're not adding congestion to that route during the morning, and so all these things that probably you didn't think of, but they're a huge benefit to the other people around you that are trying to get to school and living there. I think the least you could ask for is to have a clear path to school.
So,
Um,
Chloe, let me ask you a
Yeah.
question. Um, in terms of the setting in which your school during pickup and drop off times, how chaotic is it?
I would say I think old school drop-offs are chaotic. I think it's kind of like everyone for themselves moment. I I would say I don't know the situation of other schools, but honestly, I would say it's pretty average, which is pretty bad. Um, there's some unsafe moves that people try to pull. Like we have a scramble phase in front of the school where it kind of takes a long it makes cars wait a long time. So in
Right.
response, they have decided that they should just they should drop off their kids in the middle of the road by opening the door while they're waiting. Um,
Oh,
so so that's an interesting situation. Yeah. Yeah.
that's interesting. You said that there's a scramble, so basically where all of the lights are set to allow pedestrians to cross in all directions, right?
Yeah.
So it's very rare. I haven't actually heard of many
mhm.
schools or many areas that have put scrambles around schools, because I think for a lot of drivers, scrambles are confusing, in part because they don't understand, they're just not used to it. It's just not a common thing. They don't understand this whole, wait, everybody is
Mhm.
stopped, only the pedestrians are going. That's confusing to drivers for some reason. Um, but I am actually excited to hear that that there's a pedestrian scramble, because it actually makes a lot of sense, right? I think near schools it should be, there should be a phase where literally all traffic, all motor vehicles are stopped, and you only allow the pedestrians, because that actually makes a lot of sense, and it helps to actually ensure that all the kids can get across all at once. When I lived in Long Beach, there's not Jordan High School, Cabrillo High School in West Long Beach, is also adjacent to a public park. It's adjacent to Admiral Kidd Park, and so oftentimes, there's in sort of that after school, or during the early morning when kids are coming to school, um, that intersection that borders the park on one side, the school on the other side, and then has retail shops across the street.
Hmm.
So you can imagine, right? And then just behind the retail shops, there are all there is all residential communities. So you can imagine that, like, that's an intersection where there's going to be a ton of kids in the morning, and somehow the city of Long Beach in its infinite wisdom has decided that there will be only one crosswalk that crosses the major street, and they try and bunch everybody together towards that one crosswalk. But something like a scramble would actually be a perfect fit for something like that, for a situation like that, because it means that more people can get across the street all at once safely. And I think if we actually did the math and timed it out, I'm willing to bet that it would actually allow more cars through in the long run. Like if we were to look at it across the entirety of the commute period, it would probably allow more cars through because it means that you don't have this trickle of people walking across at every signal. So that's a really interesting, yeah, just a really interesting design that I hadn't considered, and I really appreciate that you shared that with us.
I love the scramble. The scramble is great. Like we even have thought about putting like a second scramble in front of the access to like the student parking lot because that also gets like really congested with people waiting on old sidewalks and almost kind of spilling into the road. But I mean
Mm.
I love our scramble. I think it's like it's placed in the perfect spot. The only downside is that like obviously like I mentioned parents get and kids too, they get really like angsty waiting for light, especially when it's like 8:28 and we're supposed to be there at 9, you know. I think the scramble causes you kind of to wait about like 5 minutes for the light to change, which
Mm.
like in the grand scheme of things when you're running late is a lot. So, like I mentioned before, like in the heat of the moment, just let the car door open during like the pedestrian scramble phase and then they have their students just walk to the school.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
are they like, is it a multi-lane road or is it just one lane in each direction?
There are two lanes going forward and then one left turning lane, I think. And it
Okay,
happens in both lanes.
that's
Mm.
wild. I mean, that's so dangerous because who knows what could happen, and there's just so much potential for trouble there. So I'm not surprised, but also feel like it's the potential for danger is so great there. So yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. I think it's especially dangerous when it's in the lane closest to the bike lanes because when they swing their doors open, it
Mm.
is sometimes in the bike lane, which is really
Has
Mm.
fun.
anyone ever
Mhm.
gotten doored?
I don't think so because I
Okay,
think
that's
they're
good.
generally hopefully they're pretty aware that there's bikes coming, especially in the morning. But yeah, not that I've heard of.
Mm. Well, it's that like potential for dangers that just turns parents off to letting their kids walk or bike to school. Even I think even in up to high school, I think a lot of parents feel their city hasn't done enough to make it safe. Um,
And yet
and
those parents are the ones contributing to that danger in a substantial
Yeah.
way. And so it's
yes.
this, this imbalance of the approach and how they're not thinking about it from, and just as is sort of typically the case, right? Like people who are drivers often don't think about it from the perspective of, yes, there's congestion, but
Mm-hmm.
you're part of that congestion. You're contributing to that congestion. And so that sort of lack of self-awareness is really troublesome at times.
Yeah, we tend to just focus on whatever mode of use we're in. We're right. If we're a driver, we're right. If we're a pedestrian, we're right. Well, thank you, Chloe, so much for sharing this with us. I do hope that you'll reach out to your city in some ways. There's a lot of different ways to do it now, and you guys are all
Mm.
so tech savvy. You can even take a picture or a video so they see it directly and tag them or share it with them. But yeah, it sounds like that pinch point for you all is very unique, and I can bet that it's probably something that keeps others from riding, maybe even along that route, because they're not sure how to navigate that intersection. But one thing we know of is that there are a lot of different designs. So it's worth, the city exploring another design that might work better for bicyclists, not just for cars.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely gonna bring that up.
Yeah, well, thanks again, Chloe, for joining us. Really appreciate you being here and sharing with us your experience. And highlighting for us just how crazy some of the back to school and getting to and from school is for a lot of folks. I really think that your story highlights for us the importance of safe routes and why the safe routes to school work is so important. Any final thoughts or anything that that you'd like to leave us with?
No, I mean, I guess if you ever find a problem in the community, just like bring it up to city council.
Mm,
They're there for a reason, you know?
yes.
For sure. All right. Well, thanks again, Chloe. And again, we really appreciate you being here with us.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, Chloe. Take care. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye bye. Okay.
All
Did,
right.
did she skip
So,
school? It looked like she was at home.
it's the summer.
Oh, it's summer. Oh, you're right. Oh, I don't even know anymore. Oh,
It's just, it's one of those things. We're so used to the work schedule where it's every
yes.
day. We forget the
The
fact that students
August
have
through May.
summers off.
Yes.
So, in our work, we run across many schools that have complained about challenges in helping students arrive and depart safely. Some of that has to do with impatient parents, but much also has to do with the infrastructure in the communities around the school.
Yeah, exactly. It's not uncommon for many parents to feel that the city hasn't done enough to make the sidewalks and the streets safe for them to allow their children to walk or bike to school. So as a result, they just end up driving them to school. And that just sets the precedent that this is the only safe way to get to and from school.
In fact, this has become such a precedent that rates of walking and biking to school have fallen from around 41% in the late 1960s to less than 12% in the 2000s. When I lived in Long Beach, my house was just 3 blocks from both an elementary and a middle school. Many kids in our neighborhood attended those schools, but every morning I would walk my dog around the neighborhood and we would see parents loading up their kids to drive them the 1 or 2 blocks to then wait in line with all the other cars to drop their kids off at school. To me, that just feels insane when you live so close.
Yeah, it does seem crazy when it takes longer for you to probably load your stuff up in the car, get your seatbelt on, and drive that distance to school than it would be for just to grab the backpack and take a 5-minute walk. But that's what millions and millions of households are doing every day.
It just goes to show how twisted priorities have become when the urban planning in our communities focus on how quickly we can route cars through our neighborhoods instead of how easy it is for our kids to be able to walk and bike safely to school, but also just around their communities.
Yeah, if you think that's crazy, there's even more insane efforts to make walking in our neighborhood safer, to feel less safe, sorry.
Well, yeah, a great example of that is recently I shared with some of the team here at Cal Walks a story out of North Carolina where the tragic death of a young child who was walking in his neighborhood, walking to the local grocery store. And as you said earlier, right, kids don't always have the best impulse control.
Mm.
So this kid was looking across the street. He was with his older brother. He suddenly darted out into the street and was struck by a car. Um, the whole situation was already a tragedy to begin with because he did die, as I understand, but was made worse when the local police department then showed up to arrest the parents of the child on charges of involuntary manslaughter, which seems absurd that these grieving parents who have just lost their kid are now being saddled with criminal charges because of what was, just a tragic incident. And, yes, kids lack impulse control, but at the same time, if the streets aren't designed to allow for kids to be able to easily navigate the streets and walk safely, I think there's a bigger problem there that needs to be addressed.
Yeah, I've read a few of these stories, thankfully just a few over the years, and I'm always shocked at this response. Like law enforcement, I know they're trained to apply the law, but in this situation, to basic place the entire burden of the situation and blame on the parents and overlook, I mean, overlook the design of the street, overlook like the location of where the students were going, what was the built environment like, did the children have training, safe routes to school training, and just say, it's the parents' fault for letting the kids out of the house. I think that's crazy. And it just ignores the entire system that allowed something like this to happen. Um, and this allows it to because this is happening, regularly in the US. So we're ignoring the design of the streets and we're placing the blame on parents, not only to teach their children how to walk and bike safely, but then also to always monitor them in the situations that they allow them out. Um, and to the statistics that you gave earlier, those make sense now, right? Why rates of walk-in have gone down so drastically. It's like this reinforcing cycle of like the streets are not safe, we're not going to let our children out, and then something like this happens. The response is not what it could have been, what it should have been, and just reinforces that the best thing to do is probably to drive.
Yeah.
That's unfortunate, because I think you miss out on a lot of life lessons and other benefits from walking in your community, whether it's to the store like these youth were doing or going to school.
Yeah, and if cities are not going to take responsibility for building streets that are not safe for people outside of cars, it's extra insulting to then further penalize parents for allowing their kids to exercise their right to move around their neighborhood freely. In fact, threatening parents who allow their kids to walk freely in their neighborhood feels like an active effort to discourage traveling outside of a car, which for many is an impingement upon the basic freedom of mobility, right? Like
Hmm.
we shouldn't be, uh, we as a society should not be okay with this. We should not be okay with uh, the laws being used to effectively prevent people from using the most natural form of mobility that they have in the form of walking and biking in their own neighborhoods.
Yeah, for far too long, the focus has really been on me moving vehicle traffic quickly. And focusing on that has resulted in really lousy design and choices for how our streets are set up. Um, in California, we have made some slow progress in trying to address this with laws like AB 413, which we talked about in our last episode. But there's a lot of work left to be done.
Yeah, and all of these changes are going to take ages to reverse the damage that decades of poor planning has already wrought upon our communities. So if we want to move things forward, then we need to support changes at the local level. So that's why groups like Walk Bike Roll California, which Chloe, shared that she was a part of, and we at Cal Walks have been a big supporter of, those types of efforts are hugely important. Efforts to push for legislation that not only shift our priorities from focusing on traffic throughput and instead focusing it on caring for people is exactly what is needed.
Yeah, and we have examples of that. In fact, Washington State just passed legislation that would create shared streets, which prioritize people and would have a 10 miles per hour speed limits, just making it really clear that those streets belong to people and not to cars. And although this idea might seem new here, there's a ton of countries around the world that have had these kinds of streets and people-focused streets for decades. And so we're just now catching up on some of these designs that have been available to us for many years.
So in the fall, we at California Walks will be seeking to work with legislators to see if they would be interested in developing a law similar to that Washington State Shared Streets law and allow California cities to begin to do the same, creating areas in our communities that prioritize people over traffic.
Yeah, if you would like to um, work with us on this effort, just reach out to us at info@calwalks.org.
or engage with us by joining the Walk Bike Roll California Coalition. You can learn more about the coalition's current legislative efforts and future work by going to walkbikerollca.org.
Thanks for joining us for this month's Walking Stories podcast. We hope you learned something and are inspired to help create safer routes to school in your community. If you need support or resources, please do not hesitate to reach out to us at info@calwalks.org.
And you can always support our work by visiting calwalks.org/donate or by purchasing your very own CalWalks t-shirt at our online store. Links are in the description, or you can visit calwalks.org/merch store.
And if you have ideas for what you'd like to hear in future episodes of Walking Stories, or you just have a short story that you'd like to share, comment below or reach out to us.
And please make sure you comment, like, and subscribe, and share this podcast with a friend, a family member, or a community leader who you hope will do better.
Thanks for sharing your time with us. We look forward to bringing you more walking stories. Until next time.